The Accidental Entrepreneur is produced by Beinhacker Law and brought to you through our affiliate relationships with the following sponsors. One of One Productions, the New Jersey-based podcast studio that produces and edits both audio and video podcasts. They sell equipment for the average podcaster and have even created a guesting kit exclusively for our listeners. North Authentic, the conscious hair care marketplace offering the cleanest brands from around the world. The Healthy Place, the e-commerce site with thousands of supplements to help you live a healthier life, along with natural solutions for chronic pain, stress, anxiety, depression, sleeplessness, and much, much more. And be sure to support the podcast by ordering some logo merchandise from our online store. Listen to all of our sponsors' commercials later in this episode and follow their links in the show notes to learn more about their products and services.
We ended up coming down to Florida at the end of that year. And that was the first time I came to Florida, and we rolled through St. Petersburg and I saw HSN. I drove past HSN in my van. And I remember that's the place.
Yeah. Big time.
And that product, the product we were selling then, it became known as the Smart Mop. Every show I would go to, there would be some local promoter who'd be like, you need to get this on TV.
Yeah.
You need to get this on TV. And I'd be like, yeah, I know I need to get it on TV. And
thank you. Who do you know?
And it happened in St. Pete, a buyer from HSN. Her name is Nancy Cooney. And I always give her a shout out because I feel like she came and she saw me doing my patter. And she's basically approached me and she negotiated a way for me to get on TV. And I remember I debuted on TV about a year after me landing in the States, which when
was your big break, basically, right?
When I think about it now, the fact that I came to this country with no experience, pretty much broke ass for the backpack and a few dollars in my pocket, and actually was on a national TV station within 1 year of landing is with no
impossible.
Experience. It absolutely.
People say you're crazy.
Yeah, and I look back, and I was 20 with no TV experience, and they just pushed me out there.
The information provided in these episodes is for entertainment purposes only. It is not a guarantee of success or to be construed as advice of any kind. You should always seek advice from local licensed professionals before making any decisions.
The dictionary defines an entrepreneur as a person who organizes and manages any enterprise, especially a business, usually with considerable initiative and risk. People often start a business without much choice, perhaps due to a job loss or just being dissatisfied at work, and they come up with an idea they just know can be successful. They become entrepreneurs by accident. That is to say, their success or failure happens by accident, not with intention. My name is Mitch Beinhacker. I'm a corporate attorney and a business advisor. You're listening to The Accidental Entrepreneur, my podcast about how to achieve success on purpose, not by accident. Join me along with our monthly guests where we share our knowledge and help you get a hold of your business. And now on to today's episode.
Hi, Anthony Sullivan here, getting tough stains out for OxiClean. I'm the CEO of Montkush, and I've been the spokesperson for OxiClean for almost 12 years right now. So I'm excited to be here.
All right. So Anthony Sully Sullivan, you go by Sully, right? Is that like your friends call you?
Yeah, Anthony is, my mom calls me Anthony. Everyone else pretty much calls me Sully, but I'll answer it.
Okay, good. Well, we'll stick with Sully then. That's cool. So I appreciate Andrea introducing us. we got about an hour together, so I'd love to share your story, your backstory. I know it's exciting. You were working with Billy Mays and the spokesperson for OxiClean and all that stuff. Maybe we can tell us your backstory and go back to where you got started in business, and then we'll get into Montkush and what it's doing today. Does that sound good?
Yeah, sounds great. Sounds great.
Okay.
So how did I get started into I guess the question is, how did I become the OxiClean spokesperson?
Yeah, right. That's a good question.
I never, if you asked me almost 30 years ago, if I would be the spokesperson for America's #1 stain fighter and probably, the most disruptive thing to happen to laundry, probably since the inception of laundry,
Right.
I couldn't have told you. It all started off, my dad was an entrepreneur when I was a kid in England. And he always kind of instilled in me as a kid, hey, see if you can get out there on your own and make it work for yourself. Right. And I always had it, even as a kid, at some point I knew I was going to work for myself. And even my father offered me a job at a young age, and I did work for him, and I'm really grateful that I did. And he kind of taught me work ethic, and he made me start at the bottom. I started off delivering slot machines and pool tables and stuff when I was a kid. And my father had a slot machine business in the UK. But I dropped out of college and I had various jobs at a young age, and I was a little bit lost. I was kind of a bit rudderless, like I think a lot of people are in their late teens, early 20s, especially, having not gone to college. And it was the end of the 80s in the UK. It wasn't a particularly great time. Inflation was high. Interest rates were high. It was actually, when I think back where we are now, it was very
similar. 89 was the first market crash in the States, right?
Yeah, well, I remember that vividly. That big crash, Black Monday with BP. I remember where I was that day because, believe it or not, even at that age, I was dabbling in the stock market. As Margaret Thatcher was privatizing all those companies, I had shares in British Telecom and British Airways. And
all that stuff. Yeah. I was in a stock class at Cornell, and we were studying the Dow and we were studying the markets, and then the thing crashed, and then the professor said, listen, I've been called to Washington by Reagan to deal with this whole thing. So the student is going to teach the rest of the class. And he left and went to Washington. So
yeah, it was brutal. I remember that. And, I remember when interest rates went to 16, 17% in the UK, and it was a pretty crappy time. And unemployment was really high. And I got to be honest, I was kind of lost. And I ended up helping a friend out in a flea market. And my mom was horrified.
Like selling for him, like at a table or something?
So he used to sell surf T-shirts, and he had a speeding ticket, and he literally asked me to help him out one day while he went to court to fight a speeding ticket. So I was like, okay, I'll do it. So I sat up there. Anyway, a guy opposite me was demonstrating. This is where it all kind of started. And I see this guy doing a pitch. Right. And I didn't even know what a pitch was then.
Never saw it before.
I'd seen it, but I never paid any attention to it. Okay. And, you go to a flea market and you see these guys doing their patter.
Yeah.
Anyway, I'm sitting opposite him, right? So I listened to this all day. And I started to count what he was doing in business compared to me. Right. And there's a couple of things that jumped out at me. He had one SKU. He wasn't sitting waiting for people to come to him. He was going to them.
Right.
And he was doing 20 times in revenue what I was doing. And I was just helping a buddy out, but I couldn't help but do the math because I'm just listening to him all day. So I'm like, man, this guy's got his...
So he's selling the heck out of whatever it is he has. Right?
Selling the heck out of it. And so I've always been a bit of a talker, and I thought, you know what? I think I might have a crack at this. So I went over, introduced myself to him, and he kind of flicked me off a little bit and wasn't interested in helping me. I went back to my buddy and I said, you know what? I think I could do that. Anyway.
And Sully, you were how old at this point? Like early 20s?
21, 21. And I've been to America on a surf trip. So I had a little taste of America. I'd been out on the surf trip. I bought a house before this. I saved up enough money to go to Australia. I made a little bit of money working in a summer job. And I had saved up some money. I had gone to America at 19, believe it or not. I had surfed in Hawaii, and then the market crashed, and I ended up tail between my legs back in England. So I had already done like a little bit. I had a little taste of success. Yeah. And all of a sudden, I'm back in England. I get my ass kicked, thinking about going back to college, and this guy ends up hiring me, and he was the one really who taught me, and he was very, very. He was just said, listen, if you're going to work for me, you got to know the pitch. Don't put your own spin on it. Learn the pitch. And I actually got
this wasn't the guy from the flea market.
This was the guy from the flea market.
Oh, it was. He finally gave you attention.
He gave me a break. His name was Mark Bingham. And the product was called the Amazing Washmatic. He made me write the pitch down. I actually recorded him on an old school tape recorder. I learned the pitch. And I guess this is important because this was the beginning, the very first pitch that I learned. And it was a pitch. It was magical. You'd say, if you said these words, if you had the balls to stand up in front of a crowd of people with this car wash and you said these words, people would throw money at you.
Yeah, they're like a miracle.
Sounds ridiculous.
What did the thing do, Sully? What did the item do?
You could wash and rinse your car with one bucket of water. And instead of giving your car a bath, it was like giving it a shower. It was basically a 9-foot piece of hose with a soft bristle brush on one end and a one-way check valve on the other end. And I can't do the pitch without the product.
Right. If I did it, it's a demo product, right? I mean,
it's a demo product. And if I did it, if I gave you the pitch, there's a high chance that you would give me $20 even today.
Right. Sure, because you're like, I want that.
Yeah, you needed it. So And I loved it. I learned it, and he put me on the road, and I just started. I don't want to say people threw money at me, but there wasn't a day when I went to work and I knew that I would outsell everyone around me. And it turned me on.
I'm sure it gave you confidence, right? I mean, this fit you really well.
And I liked the entertainment of it. I liked the product. I didn't like the product. I loved it. And you could tell. Like, I would sit there and people would laugh at me. I'd show up with this car. I'd put my little table out and I'd put my car washers over here and I'd have a cup of tea and I'd have to wait until the crowd kind of. And
it's a performance, really, right? I mean, that's what you're 100%.
Doing. When I saw there was enough people there, I'd start my dog and pony show, and then it would be off to the races. And I wouldn't stop. I would keep going for about 6 or 7 hours. And people used to be, oh my God, but I couldn't not stop because people, you take some money, and then someone at the back would say, hey, how does that work?
Right.
Well, I got good at it. I made money like anything. And the more I did it, the better I got like anything. And I ended up getting recruited by several other people to do several other products. And they all had their own little nuances. Vegetable slices. There was
Ron Popeil, right? You're like the Ron Popeil of England.
I didn't know Ron at the time, but I was following in those footsteps of this. And then, a couple of years went by, and it was great in the summer and it was bad in the winter. Because it was very weather dependent, and it was
outdoor stuff most of the time.
Yeah, I look back on it now. It was early mornings, sleeping in the back of my van. I was a kid, right? So I didn't care.
Yeah, right.
Cash, a lot of fun.
I think Sully. I think the best pitches I've seen have been going to like these auto shows, and you go in the section where they have it's like off to the side where they have all these companies that sell products. Everybody loves their car, right? These guys could pitch anything, and it's all demo stuff. It looks great, and you're like sold. I need that, and you got
the Shop Wow, you got the car wax, and it was like a performance, like you said. Anyway, and one day I turned on the TV, and I saw my first infomercial when Reagan deregulated the airwaves in the 80s. Infomercials broke in America. It took a couple of years for them to migrate with satellite TV over to the UK, and I started to see Ron Popeil.
Yeah.
I started to see Mike Levy.
Oh, that's the first time you started to see him.
When I saw those guys on TV, I was like, holy crap, I need to be doing. I need to be on TV.
Why talk to 50 people when you can talk to 50 million, right?
100. So 100%. So, this story, it ended up I ended up jumping on a plane and going to LA. And I look back on it now, and it was it was a crazy, I remember telling my friends, I'm giving up this market life. I'm going to America. I'm going to be on TV. I mean, how many people?
That was it. You had no contacts. You were just like, I'm going to find these people.
I knew one person out there, and he had a mop. He was a British guy. He had this mop called the Super Chamois mop. And I thought, you know what? I'm going to go and I'm going to learn the pitch for this mop. And I'm somehow going to get myself on television.
But he wasn't on TV at the time. The product wasn't on TV.
No, it wasn't on TV. I was young and reckless, and I had nothing to lose. And that's a beautiful, when you got nothing to lose and you're young and you got a dream, like that's when you want to go for it. Right. So
I guess, right. You got nothing to lose. Now, were there any of the shopping networks in those days or not yet?
Well, I didn't know about the shopping networks. I hadn't seen them. I just was watching infomercials at the time. So I ended up going to LA, and I worked every single municipality in Southern California and up to Oregon. I worked either the fairgrounds or the convention center, from Santa Barbara to Fresno.
Right, you had to pay your bills, right? You went out there, you had no job, right? So
no job, and I learned the mops, and it was different in America because the sense of humor was different, the performance was different, but I had an accent.
Yeah, people like the British accents here.
Yeah, what I learned is, if you got nothing smart to say it with a British accent.
Right, I agree 100%.
Yeah, it'll at least sound a bit better. So,
right, exactly.
Anyway, the gentleman that I was working with out of Los Angeles, he was giving me 25% commission, and I was loving it. I was in California. I had a van, and I was living in it. It's
weather's good, right?
I couldn't. It was a whole other world, right? It's British kid accent. It was like, I was loving life.
In those days, that was a real van, right? It wasn't a minivan. It was like it was
a 1977 Ford extended Econo van.
Oh, nice. Yeah, that's a real van.
Yellow.
Yeah, that's funny.
So, and I would camp out, and I would, in between weekends, I would go to the beach and surf and hang out. Anyway, I got a call to go back to New York and Pittsburgh and Philadelphia and Boston. And they were like, you need to go back east. I remember the streets were paved with gold was what they told me. And I thought, all right, I'll go. It was one of those things when I got the good life and I'm like, okay, New York sounds great. And I went there in the winter of 94 and there was a nor'easter after nor'easter after nor'easter.
Yeah, 94 was a bad season. I think we had 17 major storms that year. It
was really bad. And it didn't snow. It didn't get above zero for pretty much 3 months. And I mean, I was just like, what the hell did I just
being home?
Yeah. And I almost went home because I almost gave up. And we were in Detroit.
Well, because of the weather, you couldn't work, right? Because most of it's outdoors.
Nobody would show up at the home shows. I was in the Long Island Nassau Coliseum.
Even if it was inside, they didn't come because they were all snowed in.
There was a guy who came up to me recently about this is a couple of years ago, and he said, I remember you. He goes, you were the only exhibitor at the Long Island Home Show back in 1990.
Like no one else showed up.
Nobody. He goes, I bought a mop from you, and I said, you remember that? He goes, yeah, you were the only booth that was open.
Right. That's so funny.
I had nothing else to do. I thought, well, I'll shovel myself out and I'll walk to the convention center. And and then I actually would sell because I was the only booth that was open with this. I had a Swedish friend I was working with at the time, and he was from Sweden, so he didn't mind the snow. Anyway, so that we ended up coming down to Florida at the end of that year. And that was the first time I came to Florida, and we rolled through St. Petersburg. And I saw HSN. I drove past HSN in my van, and I remember like that's the place.
Yeah, big time.
And that the product we were selling, then the mop, it became known as the Smart Mop. Every show I would go to, there would be some local promoter who'd be like, "You need to get this on TV."
Yeah,
you need to get this on TV, and I'd be like, "Yeah, I know I need to get it on TV." And
thank you. Who do you know?
And it happened in St. Pete, a buyer from HSN. Her name is Nancy Cooney. And I always give her a shout out because I feel like she came and she saw me doing my patter, and she's basically approached me and she negotiated a way for me to get on TV. And I remember I debuted on TV about a year after me landing in the States, which when
was your big break, basically, right?
When I think about it now, the fact that I came to this country with no experience, pretty much broke ass for the backpack and a few dollars in my pocket, and actually was on a national TV station within 1 year of landing is with no
impossible.
It absolutely.
People say you're crazy.
Yeah, and I look back, and I was 20 with no TV experience, and they just pushed me out there. They didn't care that I had no TV experience.
No, because you were good at what you did.
You know? Yeah, I mean, they obviously had confidence in me. I was a nervous wreck going in there, but they pushed me in the cameras, and
makes for a great story though now.
And we sold 5,000 mops in 22 minutes.
Now, how long would it take you out on the road at flea markets and shows to sell that many mops?
Oh, I mean, I would sell on a really, really, really good show, like the Fort Lauderdale Home Show or something. I would do about 15,000 in a weekend, which would be 750.
In a whole weekend, you did it in 20 minutes.
That would be a really good show. That would be a very, very busy. That's me with one other person. So to sell
working your ass off.
No, 5,000 in 22 minutes.
It's unbelievable. Yeah.
So then I picked up. I had and I didn't make the kind of money down at HSN that I was doing because I had to work a deal with the people I was working with. But I realized I'm like, the future for me is not doing flea markets anymore or boat shows or home shows. The future for me is to anchor myself to HSN. And I couldn't do any wrong down there back then. It wasn't like it is now. It's much more corporate now. But back then it was just gone public, and it was the Wild West.
Yeah, and they were looking to make money. And it's like one big infomercial, the whole network.
It was one big infomercial, and they would play these crazy price games, and they had a horn on the set, and they would take.
I remember that. Yeah. Do they still do that?
No, it's very formulaic now. And I say that with the greatest respect, but when I was there, I mean, anything went, anything. Yeah. I had no makeup.
They'll try anything. Right. Yeah.
They'll try anything. And it was, I was the kid, and I remember running around with Frankie Avalon and Omar Sharif and Ivana Trump and Louise Mandrell. I was this little skinny rat, 20-something-year-old kid with a British accent, and all these celebrities. I get invited out to dinner. I was going out to dinner with Frankie Avalon. I'm like,
really?
I'm having steak.
And they're all pitching something. That's what they were there for.
They loved it because they were trying to sell what they were selling, and they weren't like I'm not going to be. I would kick their ass.
Yeah, well, they were just there because they were well known, not because they were good at what they did.
Right, like Vanna White would be on the air, and Suzanne Summers, and I would quadruple what they were moving.
Right, and because your skill matters when you're on TV. It's no question about it.
they would pull me into the green room and say, "Kid, get in here." And they all, it felt like it was the mafia running half these people. Because it was all the Vegas promoters that were, there were all these guys from New York and guys from Jersey. And it was, their promoters were always like these guys. And they were like, it was like, and they'd be like, "Hey, get in here, kid.
Hey, Anthony, come over here, talk to us. Let's have a talk.
Give Suzanne a couple of pointers, you know." And I give Suzanne Summers to tell her how to
say. Going to tell her?
It was Connie Stevens. It was Dr. Spock was on the air, and Sue. And so it was great when I look back. And anyway, that was the beginning of HSN. And before I did that, I'd done a lot of shows, and I met Billy. And Billy and me, Billy actually sold the car wash that I very first sold. And I heard about him, and there wasn't very many of us that actually sold the British car wash, the Amazing Washmatic. So when I met him in Pittsburgh of that really crap winter, I made an effort to find him and seek him out, because I figured we were one of this, you know, we had this mutual product that we loved. And me and Billy didn't get along right away. For whatever reason, he did not like me right out of the gate.
Billy's American, right? He's not British.
He was a Yinzer, Pittsburgh through and through. He bled yellow and gold, black
Steelers,
gold, Steelers all the way. Myron Cope's terrible towel, and he was a master. And so Billy and I didn't hit it off right away, but there was a mutual respect that we gained for each other as we would travel the flea markets and the home shows, and I would run into him, and I realized that he was a powerhouse. I think one of the reasons we didn't get along is we're super competitive.
Yeah, sure, I'm sure.
Yeah. And
how did you end up selling the same product? Because the product you were selling was from a guy you knew in Britain, right? In England.
It was a well-known car wash at the time, but not very many people. So there were these pitches that were really physical. And there were non-physical pitches, and I liked the physical demos where there was a lot of movement. And Billy was like that. Billy liked the demos that required there was a lot of dexterity. When I look back on it, and there was a science, I could pitch these products without even looking at them. I could look at you in the eye.
Right.
It was like a magic show. When I look back, it's like doing
people respond to visual stuff. That's why magic.
Yeah. So. And then Billy, I kind of dialed myself into HSN and moved to St. Pete. And then Billy showed, I got maxed out on my products on the air. And next thing, Billy showed up, and I was doing good at HSN. I was loving it. I moved to Clearwater Beach. I bought a house on the beach. I was making money. I got myself a green card, a bank account, a credit card. This is when I sort of put my roots down. I'm going to move to Florida. Yeah. And at the time, you'd never want to live. I mean, St. Pete was famous for the movie Cocoon, and retired people.
Yeah. And then down the average age by moving there.
Yeah, I brought it. I mean, I was the youngest person on Clearwater Beach probably by about 30 years. But
the weather was better.
It was great when I look back on it. Anyway, and then Billy came, and Billy ended up getting OxiClean. And OxiClean was a new product. No one had heard of it. Right. And I'd met the guy who found OxiClean.
So he didn't invent OxiClean. He was just a pitch man?
It was actually discovered. I don't know the lady that actually originally had OxiClean. I remember first seeing it at the Miami Boat Show. And this guy called Max Apple, old guy, Max is from Denver, Colorado, from Greenwood Village. He found out, he did a deal with a lady that found OxiClean. They named it OxiClean, and he recruited Billy because Max was a little bit older. He was a former pitch guy, and he knew that Billy was a powerhouse. So he recruited Billy, and then Billy knew the pitch for a product called DD7, and Billy took the nuts and bolts of that pitch and applied the demonstrations to OxiClean. And Billy came up with all the one-liners: powered by the air you breathe, activated by the water you and I drink. It's Mother Nature approved and safe on colored fabrics. Add a scoop to every load of laundry. That was all Billy.
Right.
And when he got on HSN, I mean, you want to see something catch fire. If there's a movie made about Billy or a marketing moment when I could see something actually catch fire, watching OxiClean, I mean, it was literally Billy lit the match, and that thing just, I mean, every day. Sell it
fast enough. Yeah.
The computers at HSN used to crash. There would be a line of people on the phone, and they'd be selling some jewelry or something. Then I would come on the air, and I'd be able to redline it. Billy the whole entire screen would just be red, and it'd be like flashing, and it would go to these colors that no one had seen before. Like it would go red and like orange, hotter than, the weather chart when a tornado's rolling through the center of the tornado. Billy's whole heat map would be the hottest color you could imagine. And the phones, everyone would be picking up, and it would be total pandemonium. And I remember the energy and the laughter, and I would be like, holy crap. He would come back in the green room and he'd be dripping in sweat. Yeah. And he'd be like, how to do so? And I'd be like, dude, you just like.
There's got to be a movie about the two of you. I mean,
you couldn't go on the air after Billy. You couldn't go. If you were after Billy, it would take you an hour to clear the phone lines. So the other guests used to get so upset.
Yeah, because they couldn't even call for the new product because it's already full. It's all busy.
Me and Billy could load the lines, and the other guests, they'd fly in from Philadelphia or from Pittsburgh or wherever they were, LA, and they couldn't sell anything for like an hour. Right. And we would get yelled at. We literally would get yelled at by the other guests, like, "You're behind you guys." And it was so. And then the owners of OxiClean ended out getting it started to get people's attention. I left HSN after working there for 4 or 5 years. This was over a 4 or 5 year period now, looking back on it. And I decided to start a production company and start making commercials because I learned enough by now. And I'm like, you know what? I'm going to start making commercials because I'm going to start making commercials. I'm going to make short form commercials. So I spent so much time at the network, I started to understand the architecture of what it would look like. And I kept getting asked to be in commercials, and none of them ever worked.
None of them worked?
No, because I'd end up working with these writers from LA, and they were all screenwriters for movies.
Yeah, they weren't in your business.
They never sold anything.
Right.
And I get these scripts, and I'd read them, and I'd tell them, it's a great script.
Not going to work.
It's telling you. And then the director would get mad at me, and the producer, because I really want to change it all, right? And then
it was your company, wasn't it?
Well, no, I would get hired as talent.
Oh, I understand. Person. Okay, got it. Right.
And they would hire me and Billy to go and do these commercials, and we would go out to LA and we'd shoot these commercials for other people. And I'd get them back, and they were good, but I'm like, it's okay, but it's not,
not going to set the world on fire. Yeah.
But a pitch, right? Me and Billy, we had a way of doing things. So I decided, right, the only way to do this, I'm going to have to write, produce, direct, and star in my own commercials. And that, so I set up my production company.
Another crazy thing that you decided to do.
Crazy thing. I'm going to become a producer. Like, I know how to do this. But I believed I'm like, I can do, it's not that hard. It's all we got to do is.
Well, you had the element that they didn't have, and that was how to write these things and present them.
Right. So anyway, I did in my first couple commercials. Actually, I was lucky. I did the Smart Chopper, the First State Quarters Map, and I did Tap Light were my first 3, and all 3 of them worked. And this is in a business where the hit rate is about 1 in 20. So my first 3, they were like singles and doubles. Tap Light actually was a home run. Anyway, the owners of OxiClean, they saw what I was doing, and I was in Vegas with Billy at a trade show, and they said, look, would you and Billy work together and do a commercial?
So Billy wasn't partners with you in the production company?
No, Billy was not. Billy, I don't work with Sully.
Right. He's a solo.
I don't work with him. Like, what does he know about directing? And they were like, no. I told the owners of OxiClean, I said, there's no way that Billy will ever work with me. Right. He just won't do it. And we're friends, but he's not going to take direction from me. Anyway, the owners of OxiClean were like, no, you two are going to go in a room together, and you are going to work together, and you are going to make some magic. So I was like, okay, we'll do it. Randomly, me and Billy were sitting next to each other on the plane on the way back from Vegas, and we wrote on that flight the very first OxiClean commercial. And I remember writing it with Billy, and I was just like, Billy, we got to get your pitch down into 320 words. This is a 20-minute pitch that he would do on HSN, but he was great, and he understood it. And all of a sudden, you got 2 guys who understand this strange world we live in. And we wrote 320 words of what I think is the best commercial I ever did for OxiClean. It's the first one I ever did. It was easy to shoot. Billy was an absolute pleasure to work with. And I remember working with him thinking, man, he's on it. And I would say action, and he would do his line, and I'd be like, but just because I knew him, I'd watched him, and I knew how to get, because I'd seen him on HSN 1,000 times, set fire to the TV. And I'm like, what are we going to do? Just do that thing that you do. And we hit this real sweet spot. And I'm like, man, this is like Bernie Taupin and Elton John stuff of sales.
Yeah, right.
That's what it felt like.
That's why it's a great story. It's got to be,
Billy was like, Billy was my performer, and I was able to, I knew what he liked. And that commercial, that's when you probably first started seeing OxiClean.
I don't think I saw it on HSN. It was on TV.
That's probably and that's when OxiClean hit the mainstream. And then Lee Scott, the CEO of Walmart, saw the commercial. He made it a global VPI. And this was 2000, we shot that commercial. And by 2005, Church & Dwight, the parent company of Arm & Hammer, real smart guys, a CPG company, they're in Arm & Hammer, Nair hair removal, Trojan condoms. They have a lot of really big
conglomerate, right?
They came in and bought. They saw the magic, and they came in and bought OxiClean for almost $500 million.
Yeah.
So that was how that all happened, and Billy and I were in the middle of that. I remember the day that happened as well, and it was just as all of a sudden this happened over a very relatively short period of time, and it was just this crazy ride of just being in the right place at the right time with the right product with the right person at the right price. And all of a sudden, Church & Dwight buys the company, and we ended up getting a reality show, Billy and I, because the two of us, we were at it all the time.
Right.
We shot a reality show called Pitchmen, with Tom Beers was the executive producer of.
Okay.
And then unfortunately, Billy passed away in 2009, right in the middle of, we were on the Tonight Show. We had a hit TV show.
Yeah, it was
Billy,
sudden, right? He wasn't sick or anything, was he?
No, he had 3 hip surgeries, and he was 50 years old, and he was actually suffering with a lot of pain from his hip, and he was medicating a little more than he, is in pain. And it was sad, a heart attack. He was very stressed, and I think he was looking back on it. It was just working really the typical success story when all of a sudden your star is like dead, and you're like, wait a minute. You just keep pushing someone out there where, eventually they just crack. And unfortunately, I think Billy just, they kept pushing him out there, and it was really hard. And that was kind of when the everything was, the needle on the record went, zzz, that was like, okay, time to reassess and reevaluate. What are we doing? Where are we going? And what's next?
Here's a word from our sponsors. Looking to get into podcasting? Maybe to market your business for your own enjoyment, or because you have a message you want to get out there. One of One Productions is a New Jersey-based studio just over the George Washington Bridge that caters to the booming business of podcasting. They offer a comfortable atmosphere using the latest technology available to record your podcast. And they are a full-service media company offering both audio and video production services, creating both audio and video podcasts as well as video shorts for business and personal use. Professional audio equipment packages are available through their website for all budgets, and be sure to check out their podcast guesting kit, created specially for our listeners. Care for your health, care for the planet, and look flippin' great doing it. North Authentic is a conscious hair care marketplace offering the cleanest brands from around the world. Their pro stylists curate only the most fabulous non-toxic hair products with better-for-you shampoos, serums, masks, and more that actually give you gorgeous hair without hurting your health or the planet. Hey, you've only got one life, one planet, and one glorious mane. Might as well treat them all as best you can, right? Try a 100% clean hair care routine prescribed just for you using their link in the show notes. If you don't see a big, beautiful difference in how your hair looks and feels, you can tell them they're crazy. Do you battle chronic pain, stress, anxiety, or depression? Well, if you take any supplements or you're interested in natural alternatives, you need to know about FindYourHealthyPlace.com. Find Your Healthy Place has thousands of supplements to help you live a better quality of life, as well as natural solutions for chronic pain, stress, anxiety, depression, sleeplessness, and much, much more. Need guidance? Use their live chat feature and talk to a wellness consultant right on their website. And be sure to use our coupon code TAEPODCAST for all your purchases to get the best prices at FindYourHealthyPlace.com. Follow their links in the show notes to learn more about all of our sponsors. And now back to our show.
And that's when I went into a pretty dark hole for about 6 months of just nothing made any sense. I'd lost my best friend, and no amount of money or fame or TV commercials or anything was going to help solve the problem. It's just grieving. I was young and stupid, and I didn't really know. I'd never lost anyone that close to me. I do what most people, just get through it, right? You just keep getting every day and going at it. And then OxiClean came to me about 6 months after he died, and they said, "Look, we need you to be the OxiClean guy." And I was like, I don't know if that's going to be a good idea. And then a lot of people said, you should do it. They're like, Billy would roll over in his grave if he thought you were going to be the OxiClean guy, but he would also want you to do it. Yeah. And
does he want some other guy that nobody knows?
I wrestled with it, and I decided, what? Let's do it. Let's go for it. And I'm really, really happy that I did. And the guys at OxiClean are honestly, I've been involved in corporate America and with many companies and people, and dealt with, flea market people. And I've dealt with CEOs and presidents of some of the biggest companies in America. And the team that runs OxiClean, the Church and Dwight, are some of the classiest, nicest people you could possibly imagine. The way they handled that, and the way they've handled the brand and grown the brand, and to see OxiClean where it is today, and to get the love. And I tell you what, OxiClean gets love. And I think it's because of Billy, and because of what I brought to the table, and because of the team at Church and Dwight that runs it. Kids and will come up like, OxiClean.
Really? No. I mean, it's in everybody's laundry room now. It's not, it's common. It's everywhere.
Yeah. And it's great. The blue shirt and the khaki pants. I mean, give you a little story behind the blue shirt. People ask me, how did OxiClean get a blue shirt? The reason why OxiClean has a blue shirt is because Billy was on the air at HSN so many times. They had 3 networks at one point. So he would bounce between Net 1, Net 2, and Net 4. Don't ask me why it was called Net 4. And he was on the air almost every hour, right? Yeah. And it was a very physical pitch. So he used to sweat. So he would bring in 10 pairs of khakis, 10 white T-shirts, and to stop the sweat.
Right.
And 10 blue shirts. And in between takes, he would come in and just change. And he wore the same thing every day, because it was like,
right.
And he wore a black one for Orange Glow. He wore a purple one for Kaboom. He wore a blue one for OxiClean. And each product he had a different shirt, so he could kind of identify himself. And so the blue shirt of OxiClean wasn't a choice of artistic choice. It was just the color that he happened to have that. And that's why the OxiClean shirt is blue. So I like talking about this, because I look back on it and it's fun.
Great story. Yeah. It's a great story. So, okay. So take us forward a little bit, because I know you're not doing that now. You're doing other things now, right?
I am still a very, very active in OxiClean. I'm still
okay.
My production company is 25 years. I have a little girl who's 7. Mm-hmm. She's 11 now, but she was 7 at the time, and she has special needs. When Billy passed away, I thought, you know what, it's time for me to settle down and have a family. And I had a little girl, and I love her to death. Her name is Devon, and she was born with special needs. She has a rare genetic disorder that's it's a duplication of chromosome 1 and 13. It doesn't really have a name, even though she's on the autistic spectrum, but she has significant special needs. And we've struggled as a family to come to terms with it, and also to help her be the best she can be. When she was 7, she got diagnosed with a lot of seizures, and she was put on a medication called Keppra. Okay. And I don't want to say anything bad about it, because a lot of people have good results with this, but the side effects for my little girl were devastating. She, over about a period of 3 months, she got really skinny. She lost about 5 or 6 pounds, which then was about 20% of her body weight. She's a little skinny little thing.
Yeah.
And then her personality literally disappeared. She went from this little vibrant girl who would use she doesn't talk. She used word assimilations. And I know what she wants.
Right.
And all of a sudden, I couldn't communicate with my kid. She's just like gone. She was
like what you think with autistic kids, they're usually like hidden behind.
She was literally not there, like listless. And her mom, I said to her mom, I said, we got to do something about these meds. It's like the side effects are awful. And because she couldn't communicate, right? I think an average person would have said, hey, Mom, I don't feel good. This is making me feel.
Couldn't tell you. Right.
She couldn't tell us. So we ended up going down the cannabis and CBD road. And
this was how long ago?
This is 2018.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So CBD cannabis are in the
2018. So it just
in the public space. Yeah.
Been around in California and Colorado and Washington. It was kind of becoming more legal. And I was very hesitant to embark to do it, because I thought my kid's going to be high. This is a bad idea. And then of course I did a little research. I was mostly ignorant, and we started to see some success. And I randomly, or call it divine intervention, I found myself in Vermont in the fall of 2018 on a hemp farm. And I don't know how I ended up in that hemp farm. And I don't know why I was there. Well, I know I was visiting it with a friend, but I didn't go there really, other than just to go hang out with my friend and go see his hemp farm. I didn't make the connection between the hemp farm and the medicine that my kid was on.
Yeah.
I walked into this field, and I was actually not very present. I was on my phone. I was busy texting or doing something. And because I didn't pay attention to where we were going. And I walked in this hemp field, and I had a very similar feeling that I had when I saw my first infomercial, when I was like, I'm going to go to America and get on TV and everyone. I'm like, I'm going to become a farmer. I was 49. And I thought, this is the next part of the next chapter. I want to grow. I want to do something a little bit different. I want to keep doing what I'm doing, but I want to try something different. I want to make something really, really special for my little girl. And I want to understand everything there is to know about this hemp plant. And I knew it was it was nothing you could talk me out of it. I went home to Florida. I couldn't sleep. I was just thinking about it. I'm like, you know what? I'm going to get a farm. I'm going to grow some plants. I'm going to figure out how to make CBD, and I'm going to make something amazing for my kid, and maybe people like her. And I think I was at a point in my life as well. I was looking for a new challenge. I was like, I wasn't done. Right. I was happy with what I was doing. I was looking for a new challenge, and this was it. And at the time, it was very exciting because it was unknown, right? And the states were still legalizing it. The Farm Bill had just been passed. So I thought, this reminds me a little bit of the infomercial world. It just reminded me of the energy of the unknowns and the excitement and the people. And I thought this could be challenging. It could be fun. And you know what? I'll be doing something to help my kid. And that's going to be great.
Now, the hemp farm up in Vermont, were they making CBD is an extract, right?
They were growing it, and they were
just selling the plants
to people. It was just a friend of mine with a farm. So I had a vision for what I wanted to do. And I said to my friend, I said, look, I know what I want to do on this. I don't know if I want to partner with you on this, but I'm going to have to get, and of course, everyone thinks I'm crazy, right? They're like, Sully, what the hell do you know about farming? Like, what are you thinking? And I'm like, I didn't know anything about television 20 years ago. I figured it out. So I sort of had that irrational, exuberantly idea of just figuring it out, which is dangerous. It's a dangerous thing to do. When I look back on it, these are some of my dad, when as a kid, my dad, when he started his business, he bought 40 slot machines, and with the goal of putting them in pubs all over the UK. And you can't legally buy 40 slot machines without a gaming license. And my dad told me this story when I was really young. He said, son, I just bought those machines. And then he applied for the gaming license.
Yeah.
And he got the gaming license afterwards. And I remember thinking of the risk of that. I'm like, man, my dad took a huge risk. Like that buying those, he was young. He had two young kids, and he lived in a little house in the UK, and he decided to go on his own. And I think that story of like, all right, we'll get out of our comfort zone and we'll have to figure it out.
Yeah.
That sort of stayed with me. So I ended out buying a piece of land in Vermont, 116 acres. I looked everywhere. I got a couple of people to help me on the project. An old friend of mine from Philadelphia helped me, and we found a farm. We spoke to a few people, and we figured out this is a young business. We bought a tractor, we bought the seeds, we did a lot of research, we flew around, and we went for it. And we went for it a little bit too big. When I look back on it, we didn't do a couple acres. We bought 66,000 seeds. And they were in 3 soda cans, 66,000. Yeah. And these plants grow, they grow 6 feet high. It's basically as many people as you get into the average football stadium. So it was.
And would you have machines to plant these things? You can't plant 66,000 seeds by hand.
We planted them by hand.
You're kidding.
No, every single one of them. Actually, both years. 66,000 seeds by hand in these little 36 count trays in 3 greenhouses that we built from scratch. And I knew it was going to be I knew it was going to be good TV. So I shot my reality show with Tom Beers. And I told Tom, I said, you got to come up and we'll shoot this. And I got some money together and we started filming because I'm like, this could be a train wreck. It's going to be good TV, seeing if I can pull this off,
right.
Now,
hemp's not grown outside, Sully, right? It's in grow houses.
Grown outside. You can grow it inside. The genetics that we grew outside. The plants, little tiny seeds, we put them in the trays. They start in a greenhouse, like they germinate in there. About 6 weeks, they're about this big, and then you take them out, like you would, and you put them in the ground about 3 or 4 feet apart.
Got it.
There's about 5 feet between rows. We laid 55 miles of plastic drip irrigation, and we learned how to farm. We had 1 tractor that turned into 3 tractors. We got our organic certification, fertigation. We bought our farm on the side of a mountain. God knows what the hell I was thinking. When it was in full bloom in 2019 and 2020, we didn't grow last year because we didn't have to. People will come up there and be mesmerized. They were like, holy, as far as you could see, we had these beautiful hemp plants, and they look like the cannabis plant to look at, and they smell like, and we pulled it off. Anyway, there was, it was a lot to it. It was like a whole new business. And I was rattled doing it because all of a sudden you realize the scale of something like this. We had to grow the plants. We had to figure out, weeds. We had to figure out the pests. We had to, the biggest thing was the harvest, is getting these things down the mountain and dried in getting them stable. And then hemp prices collapsed at the end of 2019. So we had to deal with that. But
just because there was just too much supply,
oversupply. And,
right.
I had not been in this space before, like anything. There was a big rush, and all of a sudden there was oversupply, and the price collapsed. But we were able to weather the storm, and we ended up pushing without getting too complicated, I wanted to make the best product possible for my kid. And we discovered that there was a way of extracting the oil from the hemp plant by using a press.
Okay.
And if you go into the average hemp refinery, they look like gasoline refineries. These giant machines. You put the plant in one end, and this white powder comes out the other end. And they go through rotovapes and heating and distillation and CO2 and extraction and ethanol. And it looks like it could explode at any minute. And here I am, like, right, I'm doing this for my kid. I'm a guy. I'm always looking for the hook, right? I'm like, what is going to differentiate us from the rest of the pack?
Right.
What OxiClean? There was enough laundry detergent on the air back in the day. You didn't need another laundry detergent, but OxiClean brought something different to the table that people wanted. Right. So I'm always looking for what's a good position for us to do something different, to tell a story. Firstly, I'm obviously motivated to help my kid and make something really, really top. We decided to extract using a press and do solventless extraction, which is really simple. We just take the flour, and I use the word just very loosely, but you squeeze the flour and out comes this oil. And you can check us out on our Instagram page at Montkush or on the website. You'll see the story.
So nothing has to be processed, just squeezes right out of the...
Squeeze it right out. And then in that oil, we didn't know at the time because no one was doing it. We sent the rosin, it's called rosin, and we sent the rosin off to these third-party labs. And all of a sudden we got a USDA organic certification in our first year from the Department of Agriculture. So that was a win for us. And because of that, we were able to maintain the organic, the organic integrity of the plant all the way through. And the rosin, we sent it out for third-party analysis, and it came back super, super high in CBDA. And at the time, we're like, what's this? And people were like, you guys have CBDA at like almost 80%.
That's a good thing, right?
It's a good thing, yeah. Well, it actually exists in the plant as CBDA. And if you use chemicals and heat, that A burns off. It's called decarboxylation.
Okay.
So the purest form of CBD is actually CBDA. And we had it, so we bottled it, and that's our best seller. Anyway, unbeknownst to us, the people who really like enthusiasts and aficionados and who want, the best. It's almost like a sipping tequila, right? You can go buy some garbage tequila and you go get your sipping tequila. We sort of had the equivalent of this very, very potent natural cannabinoid in our rosin that has become, it's our best seller. So we actually do make the next step down, if you will, and it's still organic because if you warm it up over a certain temperature, it turns into CBD, but it's our rosin based. It's all rosin based.
Got it.
And there's a big market for this rosin. And it's just getting bigger every day.
But that's kind of a precursor to the CBD oils and stuff you see on the shelf.
You just nailed it. Precursor is the word. I sometimes don't use these. Some people get confused, but it is a precursor.
Yeah, I understand. So it's like a raw material kind of, right?
It's just, I kind of tell people, when you have orange juice and you squeeze it from an orange and it's just.
This hasn't been processed or anything.
Yeah.
Now, Sully, I want to ask you a question because you got interested in doing this farming. Were you already, I don't want to use the word experimenting, but using CBD to help your daughter and it was working for her so that you were, and then you kind of saw the farm and you're like, well, we got to do this. I mean, was there a connection there?
Yes. I had my daughter's mom, her name is Brett. So it's a little confusing. She's a PhD in school psychology. So she's way above me.
She's not your wife. You guys didn't get married.
We're not married, no, but we co-parent really, really well.
So Devin's mom's Brett, and she's a scientist.
She's a scientist. She's a doctor. So when it comes to matters of anything above my pay grade, I pretty much prefer to her. She's got a doctorate. So what she says goes. She wins 99% of anything that involves any medicine. I'm gonna speak to the doctor. So. And she's been really, really supportive of this. And so, we had good results. And I just felt, I wanted a challenge. I wanted to do something great for my kid. I knew that there'd be some eye rolling in the community, especially the cannabis community of, this is another celebrity. Not that I consider myself a celebrity, but you could, the OxiClean guy. Why is this guy getting into this space?
Right. And
I thought, not only do I want to make the best product possible, and I have a reason, right? My daughter, I'm helping. But I also, I wanted to prove, just like I guess to my dad, when my dad, told me to go work for myself and make a name for yourself. I have to earn my stripes. I'm going to have to earn my spurs in this space. I just can't walk into it and go, hey, I'm here.
Right.
Put my foot in a bottle and expect you to believe me.
Yeah.
I know from even when I showed up at HSN and you said it, I put my 10,000 hours in, and I feel like on this one, I don't know how I do have 10,000 hours in now because it's been 3 years. But I thought to myself, I can't just roll in here and say that I'm an expert in this. I'm going to have to put my 10,000 hours in. And that is what I'm doing, and that is what I've done. It's taken 10,000 hours. It has.
It's a different thing for you because even if you're selling this, you're producing whatever. It's not a demonstrable product. You're not. You were very good at hands-on, showing things, wowing people, selling things, knowing how to put those commercials together. This is kind of a different. It's a product, right? You're doing great things with it, but it's not. You can't put somebody up on stage and you give them 2 drops of CBD and something magically happens. No, this
just kicked my ass from a marketing standpoint. The thing that I'm the best at is the thing that I've been humbled on, because all of a sudden I'm in a space now when it's not a physical product, right? It's not something where I'm like, watch this.
Yeah, you can't do that.
I can't do that. And it's also, I can't advertise on Facebook. I can't advertise on Google. I can't advertise on television.
They won't let CBD go. No CBD ads.
And I've been knocked down a peg or two because people have been looking at me and like, you're the Oxy, you know how to do this. And I'm like, yeah, I do, but I don't.
Different skill. Yeah.
A different skill. And I've had to go deep. I mean, I'll be completely candid with you. There's a couple of times I'm like, why is this? So, and it isn't a yell from the rooftops at full gas, Billy Mays, Anthony Sullivan style, solving your everyday problems and picking up stains and picking up spills. This is ultimately is a wellness product that people are really, really serious about. And there's a lot of bad product out there. There's a lot.
Yeah. So there's a lot of skepticism, misunderstandings, uninformed people. It's not like, laundry's been around for a couple of 100 years. It wasn't like you had to argue about that. oh, you need to clean your clothes. People are like, why do we need to clean our clothes? You didn't have to make that argument.
Right. So one of the things that I've done, I was like, I've had to reassess a couple of times. All right, what are we doing here? Firstly, we're doing this for the right reason. I get the why. All right. Yeah. And it's important to me. We've got our true north. Secondly, are we making a top of the line product? We're doing something here that is something I'm proud of, and even you go back, I've had some on the spectrum of products over the years. I've got my arm twisted to doing some products that probably you could find on YouTube and you might be, what the hell was Sully thinking? Some of them were just like bad ideas, but the ones that I'm proud of the products like OxiClean. I'm proud of the Super Chamois mop. I love that mop. I literally love it. Every time I see one, I'm like,
still out there? The Super Chamois mop, you can get it on Amazon. It's out there still?
It's called the Smart Mop now.
Okay.
And that old car wash, the Amazing Washmatic. I mean, I kind of want to have one in my, people are like, what is that? I said, that's the car wash. It's the greatest car wash. So are we making a great product? And we are. And then it's just like anything. I've been in a business, a world where everything's instant hit. You go on television, right, and you set that
5,000 units in 20 minutes.
I mean, me and Billy would load the lines, right? Yeah. Just load the lines. This isn't like that. This is a slower burn, and it's going to take time. And just stay in the saddle. And it's just stuff of the more older I get, and the more experienced I get, and the more I look around me at a lot of success. And this is cliche. There is no overnight success. Even when people saw Billy on TV and they're like, Billy Mays, the new Billy, that guy.
Right, of course. That was just a one, right.
That's when they saw him, right? They didn't see him suffering.
Yeah, well, getting there. Right, of course.
Getting there. And I feel like Montkush is on that journey. And in that, I think is the power of the product and the power of the brand is when you grow. It is great to have a meteoric rise, right? Like companies like Instagram that just,
right, well, that's pervasive. You're dealing with a community that is, people, the wellness community is still developing. It's still holistic. It's still not mainstream in the medical community. I mean, look at like Whole Foods, right? When I grew up, if you were into organic, if you were into, naturopathy products type of stuff, you had to go to some weird stores. I had friends, his mom was into really natural stuff. These stores were like weird stores. And then over time, things became more mainstream. And now there's Whole Foods. And it's like a supermarket and it's all mainstream. Everybody wants organic. So CBD is kind of like that in terms of it's still not, mainstream, not well understood, not available everywhere. You got to go to, certain stores. I mean, obviously, I'm sure they have CBD at Whole Foods now, right?
They do.
So it's maturing.
It's maturing. And like anything, it's like it's at the end of it. I don't want to say it'll be a 2-horse race. There'll be a lot of brands that fall by the wayside and there'll be some brands that stick. Right now, I don't believe there's a brand. If you went into the average person in the street,
no, there's no brand name.
A CBD brand, you wouldn't know.
No.
You say, tell me a laundry brand or a chocolate bar or a motor car. People will give you 5 brand chocolate bars that they know off the top of that hasn't happened to CBD yet. So the people that are in it, they think, this is a mature business. In the grand scheme of things, it's still a very young business.
Right.
We're still figuring out. We got FDA issues to deal with.
Now, Sully, are you making your own? You have your own product line, so you're bottling it and you're selling to retail.
Yep. We actually are focused very much on our direct to consumer on our web. We like that. And we're just focused on that is 80 to 90% of our business is direct to consumer. It's still very young. We're in Erewhon Market in Los Angeles, which is a very high end organic store, and we're dealing with some small retailers, but right now, without the ability to tell the story and get the message out there, we're taking it very, very slowly on actually putting it into retail because I just think
because of brand recognition, right? Why would they choose yours over somewhere else?
The story out there, and what I do like I love our direct to consumer. We're able to. Sorry, my phone's ringing. We're able to tell the story. Have that relationship with the customer. I mean, I look at our customers every day. I try and write handwritten notes every now and then if I know someone's buying it, and I try and make that transaction just like when I was selling a mop or a car wash, when that hand-to-hand transaction. When we have an Airstream, we take it on the road and we go sit with our customers. We do outbound surveys, trying to just, make sure that customer experience is really, really good. It's not cheap. It's $99 for a tincture of 1,000 milligrams. We're very aware of the cost of it, because the cost of farming, you can imagine how much it costs to do it.
I can imagine.
It's great. We're USDA organic certified. My daughter was my first customer. Our first customer. She takes it twice a day. I take it. I just fell playing kickball, and I did a number on my back. So I've been pounding our CBDA right now just to kind of help with my pain. But it's great. It's been an interesting challenge of a business. And like, there was a couple times, I think I told you, when I was selling my mops in Long Island, that I thought about going back to England with my tail between my legs, and it's like anything, but it's awesome. We got a great product lineup. We've been marketing now. It took us a solid 18 months to develop the product line, and we're just taking it very slowly, making sure our product line is great. And that was after having grown right. First, you had to grow. You had to plant the farm, and how long did that take to grow? I mean, each year is basically, we go in the ground in April, and we don't come out of the ground till October. And then by the time we actually get it and process it and squeeze it and get it in the bottle and do everything, it's almost a 12-month period of time. But interestingly enough, in January, a study came out of Oregon State University that linked CBDA in particular to COVID. And we've had a run this year. It's been an insane run on CBDA, which is just great. You start a new business, you're working and you're hustling and making sure we have good people part of our team. We just signed Andrew Cotton, the big wave surfer. Have you watched 100-Foot Wave on
No, but I know the name Andrew Cotton. Yeah.
Yeah, and Coddy's a big wave surfer, and he broke his back a few years back, and he's actually from my village in the UK. So we're putting the team together, the marketing team, and the TV show is available on Tubi. And Sully, are CBDA, because it's a precursor to the CBD that you see in most products. Are you one of the few that are producing a product that has CBDA, or not? No, there are other companies. I would say we are the number one producer in the United States right now of CBDA, and we have the biggest inventory of it. And we're the only people that have it in any meaningful amount with a USDA organic seal on it. I've already started to see some CBDA like magically appear. Right. I'm not quite sure of its efficacy. And if anyone's out there. Yeah, well, that's a problem, right? You don't know what's in these bottles. Yeah, if anyone. And your brand is Montkush, right? That's what it says on the label. Montkush. So Mont, shout out to Vermont, and also French for mountain, and we're very close to Montpellier, our farm. And Kush is where the genetics are from the Kush region of the foothills of the Himalayas way back in the day, before they're called the countries that they are now. But it also, we found out that an Indian chap visited us on the farm. And he says, your name is the best name. And I'm like, why? Why is it good? He says, Kush means happy in Hindi, and happy mountain. So it all comes together. Yeah. So, Montkush is the website, and catch us on social media and Facebook. Right. Your story, I believe, is on the website, right? And on Instagram, Facebook, all that type of stuff. Yeah. We'll so put all your links in the show notes. And it's a great story. I mean, Sully, they got to make a movie about you and Billy and his, because especially since his life was cut so short, I think Billy you gotta get somebody to write the script, then you got to take it to Hollywood. You did it once before, right? Hit the streets and find a studio that'll produce it. You got to get a producer, and you got to get a director, and it starts with a script. So you got to find a script writer, and then go off to Hollywood. I'm good friends with David Arquette, and David movie You Can't Kill David Arquette, and I did speak to David about it, and I'm like, bud, we need to, and I'm really tight with Billy Mays' son still, and Billy Mays' son wants to make the movie. And I don't know who would play Jonah Hill, maybe, like who would play Billy Mays, that would be the fun process of getting someone to audition. Jonah Hill probably would be a good choice. You need somebody who's, who could be as animated as he. Yeah, exactly. It's a great story. Well, I want to stay in touch. I will put all your links in the show notes. People can see what you're doing, follow your story, learn about CBDA, and still look for you and think of you whenever they're at the supermarket and see OxiClean. Thanks. Because, I really enjoyed talking to you. I really, really enjoyed this. So let me know if you need anything from me. Thank you. And check us out, Montkush.com. And don't forget, add a scoop of OxiClean to every load of laundry.
If you like the podcast, please tell others about us. You can find us on Apple Podcasts, on Google Podcasts, on Amazon Music, and many of the other podcast directories. If you like what you hear, please leave us a 5-star review and feel free to share our episodes on social media. If you have any questions or comments, ideas for the show, or you'd even like to appear as a guest, reach out to us by email at info@beinhackerlaw.com. The Accidental Entrepreneur is hosted and produced by me, Mitch Beinhacker. If you'd like more information about my legal services, you can find me on social media or visit my website at beinhackerlaw.com. Thanks for listening, and be sure to subscribe to our feed to be notified of all future episodes.